There comes a point in every person's life when the crushing weight of betrayal, rejection, and sabotage feels like too much to carry. When you've given your all, your heart, your trust, your time, only to be met with deceit, criticism, and people who smiled in your face while plotting your downfall behind closed doors. But let me tell you something right now. They thought they were breaking you, but they were only building what God was about to lift. You see, people don't attack what's empty, they attack what's anointed. The lies didn't destroy you, the pain didn't end you, that storm didn't stop you. In fact, it was fuel, divine fuel, because when God's hand is on your life, no weapon formed against you can prosper. When heaven calls your name, hell can't block your elevation. They dug a ditch for you, but baby, you're not going down, you're rising up. So don't you waste another tear over who left, who lied, or who tried to break you, because the same crowd that mocked your fall is about to witness your rise. God is preparing a table not in secret, but right in front of those who tried to bury you. He's about to lift you so high, even your enemies will have to acknowledge, surely the Lord is with them. You didn't break because you were built for the blessing. Now get ready, because elevation is coming. They thought breaking you would end you. They assumed that if they pushed hard enough, lied loud enough, and walked away cold enough, you'd fall apart and never rise again. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, is that there's a hand over your life that doesn't let pain have the final say. You weren't just going through a breakdown. You were stepping into a breakthrough. The pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The tears you cried in secret weren't wasted. They were watering the soil for something divine. See, the breaking wasn't random, it was strategic. That betrayal wasn't an accident. That rejection, it didn't catch heaven off guard. It was all part of a divine setup. You were being positioned, not punished. You were being carved, not crushed. Every time they tried to break you, heaven tightened its grip on you, because even when people plot, God plans. And His plan will always prevail. You don't get oil without pressing the olive. You don't get wine without crushing the grape. And you don't discover the strength inside you until the weight above you pushes you to your knees. The breaking was painful, but it was also the birthplace of your power. That breaking revealed what was fake and what was faithful. That breaking shook your comfort, but it also stirred your calling. It forced you to see who was really for you, and it opened your eyes to who was always sent to distract and delay your destiny. It stripped the mask off of the familiar and exposed the danger in what you once defended. You didn't just survive that season, you were transformed in it. And here's the thing, while they were busy trying to tear you down, God was quietly building you up from the inside, piece by piece, layer by layer. Strength where there was weakness, wisdom where there was once naivety, fire where there was once fear. The same hands that let the storm roll in were the same hands securing your anchor, because He knew what they didn't. You were built for this, built for battles, built for pressure, built for purpose. Every lie they told about you was just fuel for your launch. Every time they laughed at your pain, it only added power to your process. Because when God has marked you, the attack will come not because you're weak, but because you're valuable. And sometimes the breaking is the evidence, not of your failure, but of your favor. People don't try to destroy what they're not threatened by. The enemy didn't come for you because you were empty. He came because you're full of calling, full of purpose, full of destiny. And my concern is that the people, they thought their absence would cripple you. They thought their silence would crush you. They thought leaving you at your lowest would bury you. But what they didn't know is that buried and planted look the same until something starts to grow. And oh, how you grew in silence, in the shadows, in the suffering. You were sprouting where they left you for dead. And now, you're about to bloom in front of their eyes. They didn't see the prayers you prayed when no one was watching. They didn't hear the battles you fought in your mind when you still chose to smile. They didn't feel the weight you carried when you got up and kept going anyway. That breaking didn't destroy you, it defined you. It refined you. It elevated your discernment, deepened your faith, and sharpened your focus. Let them talk. Let them watch. Let them wonder how you're still standing. Because when God allows a breaking, He's not trying to finish you. He's preparing to reveal what's inside you. You didn't lose in that season. You leveled up. You didn't come out weaker. You came out wiser. You came out stronger. You came out bolder. That pressure unlocked something holy in you. That isolation became your consecration. And now you know you were never alone. You were consecration for Him. You were consecration for Him. That consecration turned the tide, that boat of suffering, back into some peace, to some consecration, and to some self-help. Even when everyone else fell away, heaven stayed close. God was there in the breaking. He was there in the betrayal. He was there in the silence. He was there when you didn't understand why it hurt so bad, why it had to go that way, why people you loved flipped so fast. He was there when they called you names, tried to discredit your character, and acted like you never mattered. He was there, watching, working, weaving every heartbreak into the fabric of your destiny. Because the breaking was never about what they did to you. It was about what He was doing in you and what He's about to do through you. The ones who tried to break you had no clue they were helping build you. The ones who thought they were burying you didn't realize they were planting the seed of your next level. So, don't curse the breaking. Don't waste your energy trying to get even. You don't have to clap back. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to chase people or beg them to see your value. Let them go. Let it fall apart. Because if it broke, it wasn't meant to carry you where you're going. If it left, it couldn't handle the weight of your destiny. You're still here for a reason. You're breathing because there's more. And what's coming next will make sense of everything that didn't. God allowed it, but only because He's about to lift you. The same place they saw you fall will be the same place they'll see you rise. The same mouths that spoke against you will have to watch God bless you. Not because of who you are, but because of who He is. Faithful, just, and always on time. So hold your head up, shake the dust off your feet, and step into your next season knowing this: the breaking didn't break you. It birthed the best version of you. And that was the plan all along. You were crushed, but you were not canceled. You were pressed, but you were not discarded. What they did to you wasn't the end of your story, it was the beginning of your revelation. Because what people did to try and stop you, silence you, and shut you down, God allowed for a deeper purpose. You see, sometimes the crushing feels like punishment, but it's actually a process. And the process doesn't cancel the promise. The process is proof that the promise is still alive. They thought your silence meant surrender. They thought your tears meant defeat. They didn't understand that while you were being crushed, something greater was being created inside of you. You weren't dying, you were developing. You were losing, you were learning. And even when you felt invisible, heaven had its eyes on you the whole time. There's a difference between being crushed and being canceled. When people cancel something, they throw it away. They give up on it. They label it useless. But when God allows a crushing, it's never to discard. It's always to develop. The crushing forces out the excess, the pride, the people-pleasing, the fear, the doubt, the lies you believed about yourself. It presses you until what's false falls away, and what's true rises to the surface. And look at you now, still breathing, still standing, still holding on. You may not have everything you once had, but you've got something more valuable now. Clarity, grit, wisdom. You know who you are now in a way you didn't before the pain came, before they walked away, before the betrayal, before the silence, before the crushing. You survived moments you thought would take you out. You endured storms that had every reason to destroy you, and yet you're still here. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's purpose. That's the hand of God on your life. Because if it were up to people, you would have been canceled a long time ago. They counted you out. They gossiped about your fall. They pointed fingers at your flaws. But God didn't cancel you, He covered you. They walked away thinking you'd never get back up. But what they didn't realize is that your survival isn't rooted in human approval. It's sustained by divine assignment. And when you're assigned by heaven, no amount of hate can undo what's been placed on your life. You weren't built by applause, and you won't be broken by absence. You weren't made for popularity. You were made for purpose. The crushing humbled you. It stripped you of the ego that was weighing you down. It silenced the noise that distracted you. It removed the people who were never really for you, only around you when it benefited them. It purified your vision. It intensified your hunger. It deepened your reliance on God. You don't come out of a crushing the same. You come out refined. You come out wiser. You come out with scars that don't represent shame but survival. You walk different. You talk different. You move with intention now. You see through fake smiles. You're no longer desperate for validation. You're no longer addicted to approval. The crushing exposed the truth and reminded you of who you really are. Chosen, covered, and still called. And that was the plan all along. You were crushed, but you were not canceled. You were pressed, but you were not discarded. What they did to you wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your revelation. Because what people did to try and stop you, silence you, and shut you down, God allowed for a deeper purpose. You see, sometimes the crushing feels like punishment, but it's actually a process. And the process doesn't cancel the promise. The process is proof that the promise is still alive. They thought your silence meant surrender. They thought your tears meant defeat. They didn't understand that while you were being crushed, something greater was being created inside of you. You weren't dying, you were developing. You weren't losing, you were learning. And even when you felt invisible, heaven had its eyes on you the whole time. There's a difference between being crushed and being canceled. When people cancel something, they throw it away, they give up on it. They label it useless. But when God allows a crushing, it's never to discard, it's always to develop. The crushing forces out the excess, the pride, the people-pleasing, the fear, the doubt, the lies you believed about yourself. It presses you until what's false falls away and what's true rises to the surface. And look at you now, still breathing, still standing, still holding on. You may not have everything you once had, but you've got something more valuable now. Clarity, grit, wisdom. You know who you are now in a way you didn't before the pain came, before they walked away, before the betrayal, before the silence, before the crushing. You survived moments you thought would take you out. You endured storms that had every reason to destroy you, and yet you're still here. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's purpose. That's the hand of God on your life. Because if it were up to people, you would have been canceled a long time ago. They counted you out. They gossiped about your fall. They pointed fingers at your flaws. But God didn't cancel you, He covered you. They walked away thinking you'd never get back up. But what they didn't realize is that your survival isn't rooted in human approval. It's sustained by divine assignment. And when you're assigned by heaven, no amount of hate can undo what's been placed on your life. You weren't built by applause, and you won't be broken by absence. You weren't made for popularity. You were made for purpose. The crushing humbled you. It stripped you of the ego that was weighing you down. It silenced the noise that distracted you. It removed the people who were never really for you, only around you when it benefited them. It purified your vision. It intensified your hunger. It deepened your reliance on God. You don't come out of a crushing the same. You come out refined. You come out wiser. You come out with scars that don't represent shame, but survival. You walk different. You talk different. You move with intention now. You see through fake smiles. You're no longer desperate for validation. You're no longer addicted to approval. The crushing exposed the truth and reminded you of who you really are. Chosen, covered, and still called. Let them wonder how you're still moving. Let them whisper about your comeback. Let them scroll in silence as you rise again. Because while they were busy trying to cancel your name, heaven was still writing your next chapter. And what's coming is going to silence every lie spoken about you. Not through revenge, not through rage, but through resilience, through favor, through fruit that only comes from faith. You're stronger than you know. Not because you avoided pain, but because you endured it and didn't become bitter. You felt the betrayal and still chose to love. You were let down and still chose to believe. You were crushed, but you didn't quit. That's power, that's strength, that's anointing. And you don't need a title or a platform to prove it. Your survival is the evidence. The enemy threw everything at you, and it still wasn't enough. That should have been your breaking point. That moment when everything came crashing down, that should have been the end. But God said no. He said, not yet. He said, I'm not done with you. I'm just getting started, because you're not canceled. You're covered. You're not forgotten. You're favored. You're not finished. You're being formed. So hold your head up. Don't let what they did to you define what God is doing in you. The crushing was not your conclusion. It was the catalyst. You may walk with a limp now, but that limp is a sign that you wrestled with something heavy and came out changed. You carry lessons now that can't be taught in peace. They were forged in the fire of your crushing. And you know what else? You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to explain why you went silent. You don't have to explain why you went silent. You don't have to explain why you went silent. You can say what you want, for you are no longer bound by falsehoods. So why not say what you think that God has already set, and you know what it is? You don't have to explain why you went silent. You can say why you went silent. You can say what you felt. You kept wondering why the relationship ended, why the door closed, why the ones you trusted disappeared the moment you needed them most. And it hurt. It shook you. It made you question your worth, your value, your identity. But what if the letting go wasn't an accident? What if the separation was sacred? What if God had to clear the room before he filled it with glory? You were asking for elevation, but God had to empty the space. You wanted more, but you had no room to receive it. So he started pruning, quietly, firmly, faithfully. He started pulling up roots you didn't even know were tangled in your spirit. He exposed hidden attachments. He broke unholy agreements. He loosened your grip on people who looked loyal but were laced with limitation. Because not everyone who walks with you is walking for you. Some people are loyal to your low place, but can't handle your rise. They're comfortable with your struggle, but they'll sabotage your success. And so he separated, he created space, not because you're unworthy, but because you're being made ready. You cried over what left you, but God smiled over what was coming. Because he knows that your destiny doesn't depend on people who chose to walk away. He knows that the weight of your calling is too heavy for people who are only in your life for convenience. Some people were only meant to witness your wilderness, not walk into your promised land. And that's okay. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to dishonor them, but you do have to release them. Because you cannot take Egypt with you into your Canaan. You cannot climb while clinging to what God already asked you to let go of. Elevation requires separation. You've been trying to figure out why you feel so alone lately, why you feel disconnected from the places and people you once found comfort in. It's not punishment, it's promotion. God is drawing you closer. He's refining your ear. He's sharpening your discernment. He's breaking the noise around you so you can hear His voice within you. Because this next level will require more clarity, more maturity, more obedience. And you can't obey what you can't hear. You wanted the mountaintop, but you didn't know the climb would look like loss. You didn't know the journey would cost you community, comfort, and control. But hear this. It's better to go alone with God than to go surrounded without Him. It's better to have peace with a few than to have noise with many. It's better to be set apart than to stay stuck trying to fit into circles that never saw you correctly. Some people celebrated your brokenness because it made them feel better about their own. Some people clapped for you when you were low because they never imagined you'd rise. Some people only loved you when you needed them, but despised you the moment you stopped leaning and started leading. And so God had to step in. He saw what you refused to see. He loved you too much to let you stay entangled with people who were secretly praying you wouldn't heal, wouldn't grow, wouldn't shine. So He stripped it, He exposed it, He ended it, not to break you, but to bless you. You can't go higher while holding on to hands that are trying to hold you back. You can't see clearly while entertaining voices that cloud your vision. You can't move forward dragging dead weight from your past. So yes, it hurts. Yes, the separation stings. Yes, the silence feels cold. But don't misread the moment. This is God pulling you into purpose. He's not isolating you to punish you. He's isolating you to prepare you. And when the preparation is done, He will reintroduce you to the world, not as who you were, but as who He called you to be. Elevated, empowered, evolved. You're not losing, you're being launched. You're not being forsaken, you're being formed. Every painful goodbye was making room for a powerful next. Every door that shut was guiding you to the one He has already opened. And when you get there, when you step into that new season, that new platform, that new purpose, you'll understand why the separation had to happen. You'll thank God for every unanswered call, every friendship that faded, every table you weren't invited to, every circle that excluded you. Because what looked like rejection was actually redirection. This is not the end. This is the beginning of elevation. And elevation will always require separation. Not to strip you of love, but to teach you what real love looks like. Not to leave you in lack, but to train you for overflow. Not to break your spirit, but to rebuild it with boldness. So let the separation happen. Let the silence sit. Let the shifting shake what needs to be shaken. Because when it's all said and done, you'll rise, not with bitterness in your heart, but but with power in your steps. You'll rise, not weighed down by who left, but freed up by who stayed. And most of all, you'll rise knowing this: God never removes without replacing, never separates without sending, and never prunes without a plan. So trust Him in the parting, trust Him in the silence, trust Him in the letting go. Because what's on the other side of this separation is greater than anything you've ever lost. And when God lifts you, He will do it in such a way that even the ones who walked away will have to admit, this was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. There's something powerful about the way God operates. When He begins to lift you, He doesn't just bless you quietly. He doesn't just restore you in private. No, when God decides to elevate you, He often does it in full view of those who tried to destroy you, those who whispered behind your back, those who threw dirt on your name and smiled while doing it, those who tried to clip your wings because they feared the flight they saw in you. When God lifts you, He lifts you in such a way that it silences every accusation, shuts every lie, and exposes every false intention that tried to bury you. Some of the people who were closest to you didn't celebrate you, they tolerated you. They didn't pour into you, they drained you. And when life hit hard, they didn't step in, they stepped back. And it broke something in you, not because they left, but because you finally realized they were never really there for the right reasons. They didn't expect you to get back up. They were hoping you'd fold. They were betting on your downfall. But what they didn't know was that your strength doesn't come from them. It comes from a source they cannot touch. They cannot block. And they cannot control. God is not going to let your suffering be wasted. He's not going to let your name be dragged without redemption. He's not going to let the pit be the final chapter of your story. No. He's the kind of God who will allow the enemy to think they've won just long enough to show them how unstoppable His plan for your life really is. The people who thought they had buried you are about to witness the resurrection of everything they tried to destroy. You see, some tables are not for reconciliation, they're for revelation. God prepares a table before you not just to feed you, but to make a statement, a divine declaration that says, you thought they were done. You thought you silenced them. You thought you broke them. But look at them now. That table is not revenge, it's restoration. It's vindication. It's the full circle moment when God shows your enemies what grace really looks like. And make no mistake, your enemies are not always loud. Sometimes they smile with you. Sometimes they clap for you in public and compete with you in private. Sometimes they offer advice that's poisoned with jealousy. Sometimes they pretend to care just enough to keep an eye on your progress. But God sees all, and when He lifts you, it's not just about blessing you, it's about exposing what's been hidden in plain sight. You went through that betrayal for a reason. That abandonment didn't break you, it built you. That pain didn't end you, it empowered you. You learned who was for you and who was only for what you could give them. You discovered the beauty of solitude. You found peace in isolation. You grew in silence. And now, Now God is about to bring you into a space where the same people who tried to write you off will have to watch Him write your comeback. This isn't about arrogance. This isn't about vengeance. This is about testimony. God is about to use your life as evidence. Not just that He restores, but that He remembers. He remembers the tears you cried when no one noticed. He remembers the nights you didn't sleep, wondering if you'd ever feel whole again. He remembers the loyalty you gave to people who gave you lies in return. And He's about to turn every ounce of your pain into purpose. When God lifts you, it's undeniable. It's unexplainable. And it's unstoppable. They won't be able to say it was luck. They won't be able to credit your connections. They'll look at you and know, this had to be God. He lifted you because you were faithful when it would have been easier to quit. Because you chose growth over gossip. Healing over hate. Silence over slander. You kept showing up. You kept trusting. You kept loving. You stayed planted when you could have walked away. You prayed when you could have plotted. You forgave when you could have fought back. Elevation comes to those who endure with grace. And now your endurance is about to be rewarded publicly, boldly, in the very spaces where they doubted you, in the same environment where you were overlooked, in front of the very people who thought they could cancel what God has called. Don't be surprised when the doors start opening. Don't be shocked when the phone rings with opportunities you didn't chase. Don't be confused when people who once ignored you now act like they've always been in your corner. That's what happens when favor finds you. That's what happens when God steps in and says, this is my child. This is the one I've chosen. Watch what I do next, and you won't even need to say a word. Your fruit will speak for you. Your progress will silence every critic. Your glow up will humble every hater. Your peace will confuse every person who expected you to stay bitter. Because when God lifts you, He doesn't just lift your name, He lifts your character. That's what God lifts you. He doesn't just lift your name, He lifts your people. Because when God lifts you, He doesn't just lift your name, He lifts your people. Your integrity, your influence, your spirit. Don't waste time trying to prove anything. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to respond to lies. Let God do what only He can do. He knows how to make it undeniable. He knows how to make your life speak so loudly that even your enemies have no choice but to recognize His hand. So stand tall, stay faithful, stay humble, because the same ones who tried to block your path are about to witness you soar. The same voices that tried to drown out your truth are about to hear your testimony echo. And when it happens, when God lifts you higher than you ever imagined, just smile. Not with arrogance, but with assurance. Assurance that says, God did this, and He did it right in front of those who thought I was finished. You don't have to chase revenge. Your rise is the response. Your healing is the clapback. Your to despise you, then raise. Your Your peace is the proof. And your success, that's just the beginning. Because when God lifts you above those who tried to break you, He doesn't just restore what was lost, He multiplies it. And He does it so that the ones who tried to end you have no choice but to say, surely the Lord is with them. You rise by grace, not by revenge. That's the truth the world doesn't want to hear, but heaven keeps repeating. You don't elevate by getting even. You elevate by getting free. You don't ascend by plotting your comeback in the shadows. You rise when you heal in the quiet. You rise when you decide that peace is more powerful than proving a point, that your growth is a louder testimony than your anger ever could be, that your growth is a louder testimony than your anger ever could be, that God's justice is greater than your retaliation. Revenge feels good to the flesh, but God's justice is greater than your retaliation. Revenge feels good to the flesh, but God's justice is greater than your retaliation. Revenge feels good to the flesh, but God's justice is greater than your retaliation. Revenge feels good to the flesh, but it's poison to the soul. It tricks you into thinking power comes from control, but the truth is, power comes from release. Real power is when you could destroy someone with what you know, but you don't. Real strength is when you could expose every lie, every betrayal, every backstab, but you stay silent and let God speak for you. Not because you're weak, but because you've discovered the value of keeping your hands clean and your heart pure. That voice wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Because grace doesn't mean you approve of what they did. It means you trust God more than your emotions. It means you'd rather walk in peace than live in bitterness. It means you know vengeance belongs to the Lord and He doesn't miss. Not a word, not a wound, not a single act done in secret. He saw it all, and He'll deal with it better than you ever could. You see, grace doesn't excuse the betrayal, it frees you from carrying it. Grace doesn't make you forget, it gives you the strength to move forward while remembering. Grace doesn't pretend the wound didn't happen. It simply declares the wound won't define you, that you're more than what was done to you, that you're more than what they said about you, that your identity isn't in their opinions, it's in God's promises. When you choose grace, something supernatural happens. You begin to rise, not with hatred in your heart, but with healing in your hands. You begin to elevate, not because you fought your way to the top, but because God saw your humility and lifted you Himself. He saw you take the high road when you could have gone low. He saw you sow peace when you had every right to retaliate. He saw you love when you were given nothing but lies. That's the kind of posture God honors. That's the kind of heart He promotes. Not the loudest one, not the one who screams, "Look at me," but the one who whispers in the dark, "God, I trust you, even in this." The one who stays quiet when their name is slandered. The one who keeps building when the storm is raging. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. You don't have to get revenge to win. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. The one who stays kind even when kindness isn't returned. Winning isn't about making others pay. Winning is about being able to sleep at night with a clear conscience. Winning is waking up without bitterness in your spirit. Winning is being able to see the people who hurt you and feel nothing but peace. Not because you forgot, but because you've healed. And make no mistake, healing is a process. It's not overnight. It doesn't mean you won't get angry. It doesn't mean you don't still wrestle with the why. But every time you choose to let go of the offense, every time you choose to release the weight, every time you choose to rise above the drama instead of sinking into it, you're winning. You're rising. And what God is preparing for you, it's bigger than the pain. It's deeper than the betrayal. It's richer than the revenge could ever be. If you try to get even, you'll limit yourself to their level. But if you let God handle it, He'll lift you to levels they can't even reach. The tables He prepares aren't just to feed you. They're to show others that favor follows those who walk in faith. You're not the same person who was broken. You've changed, you've grown, you've matured. And that's the goal, not just to rise, but to rise right, to rise healed, to rise whole, to rise clean, so that when you look back, you don't have to regret how you handled it. So if you look back, you don't have to regret how you handled it. You can smile and say, I trusted God and He came through. It doesn't mean you don't set boundaries. It doesn't mean you tolerate toxicity. Grace doesn't mean access. It means release. It means you can forgive someone and still walk away. It means you can let go without looking back. It means you don't carry bitterness into your next blessing. Because nothing blocks favor like unforgiveness. And nothing invites acceleration like grace. So if you're